less than typically 15 seconds, right? And that's going to be the predominant energy system then for these three activities, okay? So we're looking at a power activity. We're testing, when we get to chapter 5, we'll see that we're testing type 2 fibers, predominantly type 2X fibers, all right? And so these are fibers that work very well anaerobically. They contract very quickly. They contract to a high force level, and so they produce a lot of power, all right? So your athletes that are going to be good at these kinds of assessments are going to be your throwers, your jumpers, your sprinters, right? Because they should have lots of type 2 fibers and be good at using that first system, ATP-PC. All right? If you've got people who are endurance athletes, then they're unlikely to do really well on these three tests. Okay? So you've got to bear in mind, you know, what am I using the assessment for? Right? Who's going to be good at this and who's not going to be good at this? Right? Who would I expect to do well? Right? Am I trying to work out who's the best jumper so that I can put that person in a particular role on the team? Right? Am I trying to use the assessment to see whether a training program has produced the adaptations that I'm looking for, right? So if I'm doing a strength or power or combination type training program, then I can test to see whether or not that training program is working by using these kinds of assessments. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so one of the things I always like to point out with these three in particular is that you have to be careful. There's quite a large element of technique involved in these three assessments, and so you've got to be careful when you introduce these that you give your PE students or your athletes time to practice the skill before you test for power, right? Because what happens when we learn a new skill, right? The first time I try it, it's not very good. The second time I try it, it's possibly not very good. And then it gets better and better because I'm practicing the skill, right? So you've got to be careful to divide the improvement in the skill because of practice and the test of power. Okay? Because if you test them straight off, you probably are not going to get a real true picture of power there. Okay? So, for example, on the vertical jump, I hated doing vertical jumps in school. Right? Because when you do a vertical jump, the key is to stand as close as possible to the wall, right? So that when you jump and you reach and touch the wall, you're as long as possible, right? If I stand out here and I jump and I reach in, I cut the top of my jump off. So you've got to stand in really close. And I don't know how you guys feel, but I'm always worried that I'm going to smack my head against the wall, right? So I hated doing that test at school. So you've got that idea to think about on a vertical jump. On a long jump, right? Who remembers their physics? If I want the furthest distance from point A, what does my takeoff angle need to be? Or my throwing angle, or whatever, right? If I'm looking 45, right? So who in their right mind is going to bend their knees, throw their arms, and lean to a 45 angle, right? Because the chances are you're going to land on your face on the floor, right? So again, we've got a lot of technique involved in doing a good standing long jump, that we need to learn the technique before we test how good the long jump really is, right? Because I've got to give people time. You know, ideally, I want them as low as possible on their takeoff, but no one's going to go down. I've never seen anyone go down to 45, right? Does that make sense? So you've got to give them time to practice the technique first before you test the actual long jump itself. And you may or may not have ever seen the medicine ball throw. I had never seen it before I started using this workbook. The medicine ball toss is very peculiar, and I'm never completely convinced, although, you know, I mean, what do I know, right? All these tests are validated and with research, and they have normative tables, so, you know, it does what it says it does. But to me, right, the medicine ball toss, you take the ball and you go here, and then you throw it there, right? So there's a lot involved with that. Yes, the drive in the legs impacts how far the ball goes, which is what it's looking for, and shoulder strength, right? But also, if my shoulders are tight, and that's as far as I can lift my arms, right? In order to throw the ball over my head, I have to do this. Otherwise, when I let go of that ball, it's coming back down on top of my head, right? So again, in order to do that last assessment well, you may have to do some flexibility and range of motion work in the shoulders first, certainly a good warm-up for the shoulders first, so that you can get your hands behind your head, right? And again, the idea on this last one is how far does the ball go, right? So you want to delay releasing the ball until your arms are as close to 45 as you can get them, right? If I let go of the ball here, it's going to drop down behind me and not be a very good throw, right? So lots of technique involved in all three of these, that if you're going to use them, you need to be aware of providing a learning period for the technique first. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Then one more thing that's important to note is on the vertical jump, on number 21. So it's really important that you read the backgrounds and you read the procedures carefully, all right? Very often, coaches will do a vertical jump that isn't a true test of power. In that, they use a technique that involves, and we haven't got there yet in the textbook, but when we get there you'll understand what I'm saying, that uses the stretch reflex and uses the connective tissue within the muscle that's wrapped around the muscle fiber. Okay? So what coaches will often do when they're using a vertical jump is get their athletes to go step, step, jump. Right? But when you bend and jump very quickly, you incorporate other elements that add power to that jump. You're not just testing the power of the muscle itself. So if you read this carefully, you'll see that what they want you to do on this test is to squat, stop, then jump. Because when you do that, you eliminate these additional mechanisms that add power to jumping, all right? And then you've got a true test of what the muscle can do on its own, right? So instead of going step, step, bounce, I go squat, weight, jump, okay? And as I said, we haven't got there yet, and they've flipped the chapters around in the new edition of the book, which I think is a good thing, but it means that we've got another chapter to go before we get to looking at muscles and this stretch reflex idea. Okay, so you'll have to just take my word for it for now, and it will become clearer in a little while. Okay? So, here's what I want you to do this week, all right? I want you to do the vertical jump and the standing long jump. You obviously can't do the medicine ball toss, and I would prefer you didn't try doing something like that on your own, because if, heaven forbid, that medicine ball hit you or hit anybody else, that would be horrible. And you probably don't have access to something that heavy anyway, right? So we're not going to do Lab 23, but I want you to read Lab 23 so you understand about it and you know how you would use it in the appropriate situation, right? Lab 21 and Lab 22, I think you can pull off. It'll be easier if you have a friend, a parent, a sibling, right, to watch you, but you don't necessarily need that. I think you can do it on your own, all right? The other thing with vertical jump, so the way they have this vertical jump set up is for a wall or a gym that does not have a jump board, all right? So then, and also they're being very careful about the amount of jump that's caused by the length of the arm and the trunk rather than the jump from the legs, all right? When you've got a vertical board in the gym, it's a little bit easier. You can skip a couple of the steps here. But, so 21, make sure when you're going through 21, one of the things that often results in a small deduction at the end of the semester is that people don't complete the entire worksheet, all right? So it's not just the jump, you've got the nomogram. So when you look at your workbook, if you haven't got it right in front of you, you'll know what I mean. But you've got this nomogram graph to fill in as well, right? Because you're trying to estimate power, okay? So they give you an equation and a nomogram, and then you've got two ways of estimating power, okay? And then on the long jump, make sure that you start with your toes on the line, and when you jump, you're going to measure from where your heels land, right? Not where your toes land. Okay? And the long jump's very easy because you don't have to do very much, like you don't have to manipulate the data, you just take the distance and you compare it to the graph. The vertical jump lab is a little more time-consuming because there are some equations to do. I recommend that you do them on scrap paper first. Make sure that you get an answer that's reasonable, okay, in case your math is a little bit rusty, and then transfer the work into the workbook. Otherwise you'll be scribbling out and rubbing out and it will make your book look a mess. All right, and you want to keep it neat and tidy because this is a tool that you can take with you, right? These assessments are going to be useful in your life as a teacher, whichever kind of teacher you are. Okay? So we want to try and keep them reasonably tidy. Questions?
I don't think so.
No? All right. Will it feel more real? I think it will, but you tell me. Will it feel more real if you've got someone helping you, for them to film you quickly and you download the film? Do you want me to put a link in so you could download the film of you doing a vertical jump and a long jump?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Yeah, I just, I hate this. I'm sorry. It's bad enough doing class this way. Trying to do lab like this online is just ghastly. I mean, I guess we could open up our cameras and each person could do their vertical jump separately and we could all watch each other, but that seems very cumbersome to me. You need to let me know if you really would prefer to do it that way. I'm just thinking, if you do it and film it, that way you can do it when you've got the space to do it. I mean, you might have to go outside, and I don't know about you guys, but we've still got snow and ice here, so I wouldn't want to be jumping around outside right now. So we might want to wait till tomorrow, because tomorrow the sun is supposed to come out and melt what's left of the snow and the ice. I don't know. Just let me know what I can do to make this a better experience for you. The lab's here to help you tie the information from class, like which system are we testing when we use this test, right? ATPPC. That's important to know, because you wouldn't bother using this test with one of your endurance athletes, right? Because that's not the energy system they use. Does that make sense? Right? So I'm trying to give you something applied and give you tests to look at, how do I check for this thing that we learn in class? Or I can use this assessment, right? But if you would prefer that we dial in and we all turn our cameras on and each of you does a vertical jump, let me know. But I'm thinking doing it the other way might be simpler.
I mean, I think that would be kind of cool. That's me.
To dial in?
Yeah, but I don't know if everyone would be comfortable with it.
My concern is that where your computer is might not be somewhere that is safe to do a vertical jump and a long jump. Right? I mean, if you've got your computer in your bedroom and you've got bookcases and chairs and a bed, is there enough space to do a vertical jump and a long jump safely? And is your laptop able to go outside so that you could do it outside? Does that make sense? Tell me, give me thoughts, ideas. What do you all think?
I think us sending in our own video would be better.
Okay, that was Kayla, right?
Somebody says she's in the
Yeah.
library, or maybe her, maybe him. I didn't see the name. They said they're in the library and I didn't think that they
Oh, there you go, they're in the library. Probably they can't do a vertical jump and a long jump in the middle of the library. Yeah. So, if you have any ideas of things that I could do differently, please let me know, because, I'm well aware that this isn't quite the lab experience that it ought to be for you all. I just don't know, I'm not creative enough, I guess, to come up with another plan that makes sure that you get these connections. So if you think of anything, do please let me know. I would be happy to get some feedback. Sorry?
Which slide did you say that we were just reading through?
21, 22, and 23. We're right on target on the syllabus. Okay, so what I'm going to do then, I will open up one link for you to put your worksheet into, and then another link for a video clip. All right? Any other questions about the connection back to the classwork? You know, we're trying to make the theory realistic here. That's why we have lab. Okay. So, stay safe, stay warm. The roads are better, but still be careful, particularly on corners, because the ice is still built up on the curbs and things around the corners. So if you have to go out and you're in a car, be careful. Okay? And I will, what day is today? Thursday. I'll see you tomorrow, and we will start chapter 4. Okay?
Wonderful.
Bye.